Ukraine stands as more than just another country in Eastern Europe. It's often described as a shield for the continent, a barrier that holds back aggression, fosters democracy, and protects the values shared by Europe. But what does that mean? And what could happen if this shield were to fall? Ukraine's geographic position has made it a center of interest for empires and military strategies for centuries. Nestled between Russia and Europe, Ukraine has historically been a crossroads between East and West. From the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth to the Soviet Union, control over Ukraine meant control over a buffer zone against invasions and the spread of ideologies. Ukraine has long been the line of defense for Europe against Russian expansion, even serving as a key battleground during both World Wars and the Cold War era. In today's geopolitical landscape, Ukraine's independence and sovereignty serve as a buffer against Russian expansionism. As a non-NATO country, Ukraine is still closely aligned with the West in terms of democratic values, anti-corruption efforts, and economic ties. Since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, the West has recognized Ukraine's importance as a bulwark against authoritarian influence, leading to increased support from NATO allies. Though not a NATO member, Ukraine shares intelligence, trains with NATO forces, and actively protects its own borders in ways that indirectly benefit Europe. This shield comes at a heavy cost. Since 2014, Ukraine has been embroiled in a conflict that has taken thousands of lives and displaced millions. The economic toll has been staggering, not only for Ukraine but for Europe as a whole. Refugee flows, economic instability, and the need for humanitarian aid create a continuous strain on European countries. Despite this, Europe has seen the importance of supporting Ukraine's fight as it defends its sovereignty and stability. Since 2014, the EU has committed over €17 billion in aid to Ukraine. Millions of refugees have been absorbed by neighboring countries. Defense spending has increased in response to perceived threats on Europe's borders. But what would happen if Ukraine were to fall? A full-scale Russian occupation would mark a significant change in the European security landscape. First, it would provide Russia with a strategic launching point for influence over Eastern Europe, from the Baltics to the Balkans, as Moscow has long sought to recreate a buffer zone around its borders. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and even Poland could face direct threats to their sovereignty. Moreover, Russia would gain control over a wealth of resources and industries in Ukraine, allowing it to leverage economic power in Europe, especially in energy markets. Imagine a situation where Moscow's control over energy supplies extends to Ukraine's gas pipelines, a move that would tighten Russia's grip on European energy security. Europe is aware of these risks, which is why countries across the continent are stepping up their support. European governments are providing financial aid, weapons, and training for Ukrainian forces. Meanwhile, NATO has increased its presence in Eastern Europe, fortifying member states bordering Russia to prevent potential spillover should the conflict escalate. In many ways, Ukraine's fight is about much more than its own sovereignty. It's about the future of Europe. The shield that Ukraine provides doesn't only protect its own people but safeguards Europe from authoritarian influence and aggression. If Ukraine succeeds, it strengthens the principle that democratic values and sovereignty are worth defending. Europe's collective security depends on Ukraine standing firm as a shield, as its independence holds a much larger line against authoritarian expansion. As we've seen, Ukraine's role as a shield for Europe is more than symbolic. It's a front line for democratic values and a line of defense against instability and aggression. European support for Ukraine is crucial not only for Ukraine's survival but for the stability and security of the entire continent. Let's not forget that while Ukraine holds the line, Europe must stand together to ensure that this shield remains unbroken.